highlights of today's celebration is an address by our student speaker. The selection process for the Honors Day student speaker begins with nominations by faculty and staff from across campus and culminates with auditions before the Honors Day committee. The student who was selected as speaker this year is Efadul, a senior honors 1906 scholar from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Efadul is majoring in civil engineering and minoring in mathematics and writing. He has been the president of the student chapter of the American Society of Civil Engineers and founder of Southern Praxis. Efadul plans to further his studies in graduate school after serving next year as a tutoring fellow with Match Corps, working with minority students in Boston. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce Mr. Efadul.
Our favorite free coffee machine in the Honors House is filled and rinsed day after day, shaped by this filling and rinsing, and living ultimately with stains only visible to close observers. I too have been filled and rinsed in the last few years. If you look carefully into me, no matter how neatly I stand in front of you today, you cannot miss the stains of carefully brewed lectures, crystals of experiential learning, and fat-free organic thinking. The purpose of this speech is written on the programs you hold. But, as Ezra Pound would have it, let me make it new. I will tell you about the academic and extracurricular flavors of Georgia Southern, blends that come about through unique combinations of motivated students, dedicated faculty, and a generally cooperative community. Blend 1, ultra-high strength roast. You spent so much time in the engineering building, you should get a room here, joked Dr. Maldonado, my research mentor. We were on a quest for ultra-high strength concrete. Concrete is a deceptively simple material. Behind its solid grayness, it hides a web of minute holes, empty spaces that make the concrete weak when subjected to loads, like a poor argument riddled with logical gaps. In our research, the hypothesis was simple. We need to fill these holes using finer particles to make the concrete stronger. We spent countless hours analyzing the composition of batch after batch of concrete. Often research work spilled over to weekends. Finally, despite an underfunded laboratory, we developed concrete that is 4 times stronger than the traditional concrete. I shouted in the lab, "Yes, yes!" And Dr. Maldonado grinned, excited. That was our moment. Standing with hands covered in concrete dust, we had given birth to a concretized poem. Blend 2, Newton Building Cafe. The old pond, a frog jumps in, plop. Professor Bolden read Basho's haiku in poetry class. I was drawn into the haiku's awareness of impermanence. The frog jumps in, plop, disappears. The still pond responds and absorbs, and then the moment is past. Often after class, Professor Bolden and I launched into conversations that ended with borrowing her books or going in search of the titles she suggested in the Henderson Library. In reading and writing, in navigating aesthetic complexities, I experienced a decentering of myself, as if the concrete block were witnessing its own holes. Attending university was no more about one discipline alone. To approximately quote a Persian poet, Rumi, out beyond ideas of this doing and that doing, there is a field. in going back and forth between diverse departments and professors, between American government and steel design, between literary criticism and differential equations, Georgia Southern became that field beyond this doing and that doing. And then what? Blend 3, the Southern Praxis Brew. If I have learned anything by now, it is to be sensitive. Sensitive to the load-bearing capacity of a beam, to the comma placed in a sentence. There is no way, then, to not be sensitive to events from the Arab Spring to the bull defecating in Wall Street. As part of my experiential learning project, I, along with some compañeros, started Speak Up, a campus radio show aimed to create a space for informed dialogue. Eventually, these dialogues would expand to a publication called The Southern Praxis. During this entire stretch, I visited Dr. Desiderio often to talk about bridging reflection and action. The conversations led to him handing me more books from his tightly packed shelves. And then there was Dr. Sabia, who absorbed my attempt to reimagine and transform our campus culture. Once I went to her office, coughing, feverish, and hungry. Almost magically, a cup of soup appeared. "You're in for a treat, my mother's recipe," she said. Perhaps Hannah Arendt was referring to actions of individuals like Dr. Desiderio and Dr. Sabia when stating that education is where we decide whether we love our children enough not to expel them from our world and leave them to their own devices, not to strike from their hands their chance of undertaking something new, something unforeseen by us, but to prepare them in advance for a task of renewing a common world. I hope you are looking into me. I hope you see in me the unique blends of Georgia Southern's academic culture and service learning experiences. I hope the stains in the coffee machine are visible to you. Beyond any doubt, the entire faculty, along with the broader community, continues to shape us. We will remember this as we move on to graduate schools or professional careers. Professors, we are grateful to you. So many of you that I cannot name everyone here. Thank you for honing that ancient subversive skill in us, the art of critical thinking and critical action.